youngest #1 in history is Carlos Alcaraz.
Djokovic is deposed as a new king of centre court. Carlos Alcaraz.
Some of the phrases that are being used to describe Carlos Alcaraz, the unbelievable new golden boy of tennis, are as follows. He just fought his way into the history books to become Wimbledon's new champion. He is the first to break the Djokovic-Nadal-Federer-Murray cycle that has been going on since 2002. And he is also one of the tournament's youngest ever male winners. The 22-year-old's triumph against Novak Djokovic, who has 7 titles, was a thrilling and nail-biting affair that seemed like it was taken right from a sports fairy tale. A few weeks ago, many of us had never even heard of Carlos Alcaraz, the tennis expert who was discreetly tipping to be the one to dethrone the previous Serbian champion of the championships. Today, however, many of us have heard of Carlos Alcaraz. Thus, keep watching this video to see the epic rise of Carlos Alcaraz.
Well, the inside being orange for the clay.
Just 2 years ago, he had recently entered the top 100 players in the world and had never made it to the final of an ATP Tour event. Fast forward just 24 months, and rather a lot has changed. Now, the smiley bucket hat-wearing Gen-Zer is the world #1 and has racked up an astonishing 12 titles on the ATP Tour, including a 4-set US Open triumph last year that saw him becoming the 7th youngest player in history to win a Grand Slam.
Becomes the youngest ever world #1.
Even though he had only played 11 matches on grass in his whole career, he has won the trophy at both Queen's and Wimbledon in the last month alone.
Wow. Well, many congratulations.
Is it possible that the win that he achieved against Djokovic marks the end of the golden period of the Big Three in tennis and a change in the guard? Indeed, commentators agree. It has also been hinted at by Djokovic himself.
His rise to the top 10 of the world,
who has referred to his adversary with the babyface as a complete player who has mental fortitude and maturity that is much above his years. After the match that took place, he addressed the media and said, "I believe that people have been talking about Alcaraz's game consisting of certain elements from Roger, Rafa, and myself.
Spanish bull mentality of competitiveness and fighting spirit and incredible defense that we've seen with Rafa over the years. He's got some similarities with my backhands. And
I would concur with that statement. I believe that he has the finest of all 3 worlds in his possession. To tell you the truth, I have never taken on a player who is comparable to him. Alcaraz is the first member of his family to achieve success in the upper echelons of the world tennis rankings. At the age of 4, he took up a tennis racket for the first time. It is said that he used to weep whenever he was ordered to stop playing and go home for dinner. Alcaraz had a poster of Roger Federer on his wall and was coached by his father. His father was a tennis coach and administrator at his local club, and while his talent was never in doubt, the family struggled to find the money to fund what is often an incredibly expensive career. After taking an interest in the rising star, Alfonso Lopez Rueda, the president of the local cake and yogurt firm Postres Reina, who is passionate about tennis, provided financial support to him while he competed in his early events. As a kind of compensation, Alcaraz wore the emblem of the corporation on the jerseys that he has worn throughout his matches ever since he was about 10 years old. Alcaraz was able to receive the greatest coaching in his area and go to the most competitive events thanks to the backing of the corporation, which maintained him throughout his early teenage years until he reached his teenage years. After that, Alcaraz was signed to the worldwide sports management organization IMG when he was just 11 years old. And he signed a racket agreement with Babolat when he was 13 years old. But it wasn't until 2018, when he started working with Juan Carlos Ferrero, that the actual magic began to take place.
Started here when I was 15. Academy was nothing, just land and an old house.
During that time period, the former Spanish #1 had been collaborating with Alexander Zverev. However, the two of them eventually split ways, and Ferrero took on the responsibility of teaching Alcaraz instead.
Around him and, make him practice with normal situation.
Despite the fact that Ferrero resigned in 2012, he is largely regarded as an essential component in Alcaraz's success, both as a coach and as a mentor. According to Alcaraz, Juan Carlos is a very important person for me. A great deal of assistance has been provided to me by him in both my professional and personal life.
I think with Juan Carlos, of coach, his family is amazing.
When we get together, we will discuss everything that is going on in life and everything that is going on in our sport. In addition to being a buddy, Juan Carlos is someone I consider to be a coach. During his childhood, Alcaraz was notorious for his turbulent nature, which manifested itself in a variety of ways, including tossing his rackets in rage, breaking down in tears, and refusing to leave the court. His psychologist, Isabel Balaguer, is partially responsible for the shift in his perspective that he attributes to the fact that he is now more recognized for his grin, even when he is losing. Back at the beginning of this year, Alcaraz said, "When I was younger, I was a completely different person overall. In all likelihood, I did not like it as much as I am enjoying it right now. I was usually angry, making a lot of noise, and getting into a lot of complaints. It didn't go as planned. I began to have control over my feelings and to calm myself down. When I first began playing tennis, I found that I really enjoyed myself on the court." Today, Alcaraz's team is comprised of physical therapists, doctors, and trainers. However, he continues to maintain a strong connection to the El Palmar community in which he was raised. He continues to visit on the weekends and spend time with the same friends he had when he was a child. He may be seen sitting with them in the park or playing board games such as chess, which in addition to tennis is one of his favorite hobbies. At the beginning of this year, he said to Vogue, "I love chess. It is necessary to focus one's attention, to compete against another player, to devise a strategy, and to plan ahead. Everything about it seems to me to be extremely comparable to the tennis court. To be successful, you need to have the ability to anticipate where the other player is going to send the ball. You need to go ahead of the game, and you need to attempt to do something that will make him feel uncomfortable. So I play it quite a bit." Off the court, the tennis player who holds the #1 ranking is also a devoted philanthropist. He has a foundation that assists individuals who have Down syndrome. He is also a fervent supporter of fashion and Real Madrid. In the past, Alcaraz has shown his interest in fashion, namely in baggy jeans and vintage Nike shoes. He is sponsored by Nike and became the face of Calvin Klein's underwear campaign earlier this year. Both Pharrell Williams' debut collection at Louis Vuitton and the way the late Virgil Abloh combined athletics and luxury have garnered his appreciation, and he has expressed his enthusiasm for both of these collections. After having a meeting with one of his representatives about the possibilities of expanding into the domain of fashion, the conversation with Louis Vuitton progressed quite rapidly. "For me, Louis Vuitton is really a brand that I have always looked to, and when the opportunity to work with the team arose, it instantly felt like a perfect partnership," Alcaraz said in an interview with Vogue. To put it another way, apart from his tennis skills, he is quite the impressive model that women like seeing. The phrase "the kid who beat the GOAT" was one of the more clever headlines that circulated after Alcaraz ended Djokovic's decade-long supremacy at Wimbledon. Not only does this description speak to the Spaniard's age, but it also points to the fact that he was relatively new to playing on the grass surface that Wimbledon is so famous for. Although Alcaraz was the favorite to win this year's Grand Slam event, he had only competed in 11 matches on grass during his whole career before this year's competition. When asked about his performance on grass, Djokovic confessed last night, "I thought I would have trouble with you on clay and hard court, but not on grass." However, Alcaraz was not the least bit discouraged by the fact that he was still a child on the surface. After advancing to the 4th round at SW19 the previous year, he expressed his thoughts by saying, "Now I'm thinking that I could be a great player here on grass." All in all, it is certain that Alcaraz has the potential to become the greatest tennis player in history. And that wraps things up. We appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. Please hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next one.